Welcome to the DreamHack Download, everything gaming under one podcast. On today's episode, we wish a happy birthday to JV. We also talk about a whole host of new games like a Pokemon MOBA and maybe even a Star Wars esport. Dive into the downfall of Mixer and how streamers are coping. We also talk about the outpouring of stories about harassment and toxicity in the gaming space to discuss how we can address these at our DreamHack events. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the DreamHack Download. I'm your host Kyle, and thank you for joining us on this adventure that we will take you on for the next about an hour. I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts. We got Blaine, Renessa, and JV again. I hope you guys have got a chance to check out our previous episodes that launched last week and have got to get to know us a little bit. But one thing that did happen recently that not many people know about is that our youngest one here turned 30. I know. Oh,
Wait,
sorry.
She didn't turn 30. I turned 30.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't put that on me.
Though Renessa actually is the youngest one here. JV looks like he's the youngest one here, so that can be played off for at least a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair. That I have that big youthful energy. My big hope is I just keep looking too young for my age forever.
Mm-hmm.
But I think something that happens, unfortunately, to Indian men is we look way too young and then way too old. Like there really isn't that time where you get to really appreciate feeling young. So I don't know. I might need to consult Nicholas Flamel a little bit, mess with the Philosopher's Stone a bit and see if I can kind of crack the code there. But who knows? Who knows?
When is that?
Well, happy birthday, buddy.
Is it 31, 32?
Kyle wants to know for reasons.
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out when you are actually going to look older than me.
I mean, the real question here is neither of you are clean shaven. And so that's really where I know Kyle keeps it so he looks older. I don't know. I was gonna say, I assume that's what JV's doing too. So that's really the, I have no idea what Blaine looks like, even close to no beard.
Well, I know JV and Kyle both have baby faces without the facial hair, so
yeah,
for sure. But what are you hiding under there, Blaine?
Yeah, what is Blaine?
What am I hiding under here?
Yeah,
a strong jawline.
Doesn't want to intimidate you guys. That's really what it is.
A strong jawline. That's the exact answer I would expect from 8 toddlers that currently make up one Blaine with a fake beard. It all makes sense, folks. It all makes sense. You throw on the massive beard and no one would know the wiser.
Peel that thing back.
We've cracked the case of Blaine. Nice.
But yes, happy birthday from those of us.
At what'd you do, JV?
Around the world.
Well, normally my birthday is a big festive occasion with a lot of people. And given the fact that Texas is very quickly becoming the new epicenter of the coronavirus, I didn't really do anything. In fact, funny birthday stories. The first person who always wishes me a happy birthday on my birthday, without question, is my buddy Ka, because he's stationed out in Guam. So for him, it becomes, when my birthday hits, about 12 hours before everybody else, right? And so he's always on the dot, boom, first person to wish me a happy birthday. But the second person to wish me a happy birthday, aside from my wife, of course, was not an actual person. It was none of y'all holding it against y'all. It was Metal Gear Solid 5. I'm not even joking. I did a mission and they were like, boss, you need to come back to base right now. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And there's all these explosions that are happening and things like that. And I'm like, oh man, I must have progressed to some deep story nonsense right now. I'm ready. And they came out with a birthday cake. For me. It started singing happy birthday, congratulations. I was like, what? And every character that I've had acquired to that point was there. It was cool. It was super cool.
I'm glad you got a great birthday celebration, including a cake even. Thank you, Kojima, for providing that. That's very thoughtful. JV needed that this year.
Oh, yeah.
Well, this is our first episode actually recording post-launch. So we're going to be a little more relevant this time around, I hope, in comparison to some of what our news items may have felt like over the past couple episodes, for those of you that have listened to them. But there's a lot of cool games that have been announced since the last episode we recorded and now, and we really haven't got a chance to talk about them at all. And I know that we've dissected a couple different universes that are going to hit into some of the topics we have today, but there's some great games. What do you guys feel about what's coming down the pipe right now?
Well, I'm particularly excited about Star Wars Squadrons because
Ooh.
I mean, one, it's Star Wars, so easy, right? Star Wars. But we're talking about my favorite aspect of the past Star Wars games that I've enjoyed, which is flying the spaceships and shooting dudes with the spaceships.
Absolutely.
And that's like all this game is, right?
Yep.
So I'm super stoked about it. My flight stick's been collecting dust because I haven't had a game that I've really wanted to play. But when that comes out, it's happening.
Wait, did I mishear that? Flight stick? I know, of course, about a fight stick because FGC stuff, but flight?
Yeah,
stick?
it's like a joystick.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep. Full on the yoke,
Yeah.
like you would have in a fighter plane.
nice.
Yeah, I don't have one of the fancy big huge thrustmaster setups or anything. Like, I mean, I would love it, but this we're talking about like thousands of dollars. I just have the Mad Catz one, which is a pretty great stick. It's not available anymore, but it's solid.
It's amazing how much more natural that it does feel in flying simulation games. I mean, mouse and keyboard just doesn't work. Controller is usually the best bet, but when you want a little more of that finite movement, you need a larger control surface, and those different controls for different flight simulators are going to be really cool to implement into this game because it's all first person. That's something that's so different about this one in comparison to the other Squadron games that have been released over the past decades, is that they were more third person. You were really out in the environment. You're in this capsule now, and you have to be somewhat aware of your space around you for dogfighting, and the potential for this to be an esport with Star Wars. Oh
Yeah,
my
so
goodness.
the 5v5 aspect that they've been talking about, I think that's going to be wild, and I'm really excited to actually jump into the PvP. Like, I'm super stoked on the campaign because it's something new and fresh. Because a lot of the old games have been kind of rehashes of what's other stuff, iconic battles, which I fully expect to be in this game. But the fact that the campaign is a new thing that we plopped into the Star Wars storyline, I think it's going to be very interesting.
Absolutely.
It's going to be canon, right? I guess.
I would assume so.
Yeah, it's going to be canon, just like Jedi Fallen Order is.
Nice.
That's all becoming canon lore. So that's one thing that they've worked really well with. I forget what the actual group is named, but there's a special canon lore board essentially that manages all of this and make sure the stories all line up right. And EA has done really well with working with them and Disney to make sure that this is actually done properly. And I'm proud as heck to see Star Wars being represented this well.
Well, and that's something that's I had a friend who was asking, what story game do I play next? And I kept saying The Witcher. And he didn't realize that The Witcher video games were not what the Witcher TV series was based off of. He thought that the Witcher TV series was going to be bad because we saw what happened with Prince of Persia. I liked the Warcraft movie. A lot of people didn't, but generally it was like movies inspired by video games don't turn out great. Then he found out that it was a book series, that then there was a TV series, that then the game was different, and he was just like, I must do all of this, because he realized there were so many different ways to consume the universe. And that's what's really cool about watching this, is if you're a Star Wars fan, there's so many different ways to consume that universe now.
Any of y'all heard of this universe called Harry Potter?
No, I don't know that one.
Indeed.
Well, they're getting
May have read a few books. I don't know.
Wait, they're getting a Harry Potter game about
they're getting
what?
a game.
Yeah, some kind of MMO, I think.
Yeah, MMORPG.
Oh,
that's
so
coming
like a
down the
real
line.
game? Because I've
Like
seen
real
little
game.
point and click ones, not like a real game.
Okay, there is a real game, and it is Lego Harry Potter. All of the Lego games are amazing.
Yeah,
So I'll classify those as real games, but this is actually like a real game if you want to get into it. The game that we've always wanted to go and explore is a Harry Potter student at Hogwarts, is what it looks like it offers the potential of.
And
So you're saying like an open world Harry Potter game?
yeah, so no one is Harry, and you're all just Hogwarts students. Can you pick which school you go to? I don't remember what the other schools are called. No, not the house, the schools. The other schools. So you're not necessarily at Hogwarts.
Right.
That would
is
be
something
cool.
that they've been diving into a little bit more with the Fantastic Beasts spin-off of Harry Potter, right? Is exploring the different continents of Wizarding World, because the Wizarding World is the entire planet as well. It's not just limited to London. But yeah, I would be very curious to see how that could expand even further as the content and, like we were saying for Star Wars, the canon lore gets expanded further and further. That gives us a lot more to dive into and be a part of these other schools, let alone the houses.
Well, and that would be a really cool way to handle global rollout of a game like that. Is rather than forcing every single person to attend Hogwarts, which is obviously English, like language speaking, and you can have the two other schools that are featured in the book for those different parts of the world, and then you could expand that and make up new schools, kind of like how in Animal Crossing you pick where you live, and that determines the fish that you can go after and when it's daytime and nighttime and all of those things. So it would be really cool to see that actually worked into an MMO where maybe they don't have the entire world covered like Animal Crossing does, but maybe they actually implement it like language or region based. And then, because we think of everything really English focused, obviously that's what we speak, that's how we grew up, but that's not how video games work anymore. Everything is so global and integrated. It would be really awesome to kind of see a nod to other communities in something like that with schools built around different major languages.
It'd be very cool, the adaptations for the different cultures around the world, for sure.
I have a feeling they're just going to lean into the Hogwarts thing because
Yeah.
that's, core. But either way, the fact that we're getting a game where, players can enter this world and be themselves and express themselves and enjoy it, I think is pretty darn cool because, for a lot of us growing up, Harry Potter was huge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I read all the books. I've watched I've watched except for the last movie. I didn't watch that one yet. But either way, pretty awesome.
I will say for the last movie, I keep thinking that I haven't watched it. Then I rewatch all of the movies going, oh, I need to remind myself everything. Then I watch the last movie and then realize I have watched that. And I have done that 3 times.
Wow.
So I
feel like you need to start keeping a list.
I'm just like, no, you've seen it before, even though I cannot remember what happens in it. I just have to keep yelling at myself that I have indeed seen it, even though I am incapable of remembering it.
This is like the most low-stakes spin-off of Memento I've ever heard in my entire life. You're just gonna get a tattoo now of like every Harry Potter film that you've actually seen, just to make sure you don't have to watch the last movie again.
I need like 2 sentences about the last movie. I don't know what it is. It just does not stay in my brain.
I got your 2 sentences right here.
Don't do it. You're gonna spoil it for people.
That's not a laugh. That's just a laugh.
Yeah.
If you know the laugh, you know you've seen the last movie.
But see, I don't know what you're doing.
Laugh.
I don't recognize
I know what
it.
he's talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have no memory of this. And I have seen the last movie at least 3 times.
Maybe you need to go watch that last Harry Potter.
Nope.
Mr. Potter, I don't feel so good. Like, that's the other one you could think of. Then you'll know. Then you'll actually know.
Speaking of other epic universes that are getting some cool games that are being added to it, Pokemon.
Ooh.
Getting a MOBA.
Pokemon MOBA.
Okay.
Pokemon Unite.
I have a question about this one, right? Obviously, I'm attached to MOBAs.
A little bit.
Is the Pokemon MOBA only mobile and Switch, or is there a PC element? Because I have seen conflicting stories, and I need to understand how invested I'm getting in this idea.
Well, so far they've only announced Switch and mobile, but I mean, okay, so it's really not hard to install an Android emulator on your PC and use a controller or whatever to play. So I have a feeling that especially a lot of streamers are probably going to be doing that. I mean, I've got BlueStacks on my PC and I use it for various things, and I mean that's going to happen. So you could still play it on PC.
They're going to have to look at that. So leveling that playing field for the potential of this thing actually becoming another esport down the road. It is a MOBA. It's Tencent. You assume there's going to be some sort of an esport attached to this. But they've got to take that seriously.
You know, because the platforms it's been on, could this be the first MOBA that Tencent's made that's just not toxic at all? Like, think about it. They don't really have the voice chat. Good luck typing anything, during like
I'm
a mobile game, right?
I'm
If
sure
video
they'll
gamers,
figure out ways.
I was gonna say, if gamers have taught me anything, if the internet, that's not gamer specific, if the internet has taught me anything, it is that people can find a way to do it. If people can find a way to organize rebellions through Animal Crossing, I feel like they can find a way to throw some BM into their Pokemon video game.
Well, one of the comments that I read around this was, "Oh, great! I can't wait to queue for some game where there's a child that doesn't get to pick Charizard instantly, so they just AFK, and now I've got an AFK teammate." Like, oh no! Like that's totally the potential because normally MOBAs don't appeal to a younger audience, and depending on how this is made, it could. It has at least the framework to with Pokemon being the back end, but are we going to run into that as like there's no communication at all? They're going to go same like just ping style, and then you're going to interact with a younger audience than you're used to. That could be really bad for this game's original acceptance.
Yeah, but would you rather have that kid go AFK or get his Charizard and start feeding down mid? Okay, I'm willing to be the bad guy here. Okay, I will gladly crush that child's dreams, take that Charizard for myself for the sake of the team. Okay, remember like 30 seconds ago when I said this is a game where it's impossible to be toxic in? We don't even have this game yet, and I'm already thinking toxic.
He's proven both Kyle and I's point, so that was easy.
Wild.
Well done.
Man. Yeah, can we get an actual timer
let me
on
jungle
that?
Charizard or I feed.
Oh gosh,
what does it even look like? I wish our Togepi would stop messing up jungle so hard. I've clearly never played a MOBA before, as you could
Just pick
probably tell.
Snorlax.
I don't know any of these words. That is
Snorlax
actually
and
my
sleep.
dirty esports secret, Kyle. I don't know if you knew that about me.
That you've never played a MOBA?
I've never played a MOBA, ever. Any MOBA.
What?
Ever.
I find it surprising that you didn't at least hop into a few League games. Or even pull
That's
up on a
about
mobile
how much
phone.
she respects you. That was her respectful comment towards you right now. I don't know that you can say that you are an esports person without actually playing a MOBA for a minute.
Feels like gatekeeping a little bit. A
I
little
mean,
bit.
a little bit, but at least go try it. You're missing out, man.
There's lots of great mobile. Kyle, what's the one that you play or used to play? You had a mobile one that you played.
Oh yeah,
Arena of Valor?
Arena of Valor. Yeah, when
Yeah.
I'm in line for Disneyland rides.
Yeah, Arena of Valor is great. I played a lot of it.
Yeah, that seemed like a good one from the little bit I saw of it. You know, it's a little
It's
easier to get
super easy to
into
pick up.
than like
Well,
League.
that's what I think this whole game is going to be built off of, right? Is it Arena of Valor was Tencent, right?
They're all Tencent.
Yeah, so
If it's mobile, it's Tencent.
there was an Amazon one that was different though.
Yeah, but
No,
you don't
remember the
even
name of that
remember
one.
what it's called.
Yep.
So if you
Yeah,
can
just like
remember it, it's
Crucible.
Tencent.
Oh, did you all see today that Crucible, they decided to put it, like, unrelease the game?
Did they
I
really?
just saw that scrolling across my Twitter.
Yeah.
I knew they were cutting down game modes. I had not yet seen that announcement.
Yeah, so they were basically
Real odd
like,
choice.
we're going back to closed beta. I was like, okay.
We're gonna unrelease.
Maybe
What?
they just want to focus on their MMO, which there is.
Was it
There is an Amazon MMO.
yes,
So-
Oh, New World, yeah.
Yeah.
World, yeah. But it was it Jason Schreier that said something on Twitter to the effect of like, I've never seen a game company unrelease a game
Yeah.
before.
So wild.
Yeah. It's crazy.
The closest thing that I can recall, at least, is E.T. being recalled as a game and being dumped out in the middle of the desert on the Atari. That's the closest that I can see companies coming to unreleasing games. Like, that is catastrophic.
Actually, there's another studio that just unreleased.
Really?
Yes. So the high-res spin-off Prophecy Games. So, yep, thank you for bearing with us while we assess the state of Prophecy. While the game was enjoyed, it hasn't met our goals for player retention. Beginning Thursday, July 2nd, the servers will be shut down while we go back to the drawing board.
Wow.
Wow.
How long was that game out for?
Maybe 2 months? Month or two?
Hmm.
So,
Wild.
It was a cool looking game though. I thought it incorporated, obviously it was built off of Smite assets. It had some really interesting mechanics that was trying to differentiate it a little bit from the other auto battlers. And I really liked the way they used some of the different synergies and like the level ups and the shops, and I thought it had a lot of promise. It makes me a little sad to see it sort of pushed back.
It's better that they preserve it than let it die, in my opinion. So I think it's a good practice to start seeing some of these companies get into if they absolutely have to. But how many companies are going to be allowed to get into that position and release a game and then retract it like that before the community's just like, oh, no thanks?
Well, I mean, Valve basically did that with Artifact. They never actually unreleased it, but come on, there were 60 players. It wasn't doing anything anymore, and now they've got Artifact 2. It's a different game. So they stopped working. They completely killed off. They kept it there so people could keep playing it. But it amounted to the same as unreleasing it and going back to the drawing board on that game.
Yeah, but you know what's crazy, Vanessa? If you go to Twitch right now, there's more people watching people play Artifact than there is people watching people play Crucible. It's so crazy. It's so wild.
Another example of these big companies just not understanding the games that they're trying to get into. And it's not just games either. We saw Microsoft with Mixer, and it's just done. See you guys.
Yeah, speaking
Thanks
of
for all the memories.
Yeah.
we're putting Mixer back in close beta. Oh no.
Yeah,
Blaine
I mean, that
wins
was
the
that was a
episode.
pretty crazy one. Speaking of unreleasing, yeah, I mean, like I had a lot of friends who were on Mixer, and you know, I was fairly integrated with that community, and
Yeah.
I'm totally blown away by it, by the sudden decision, and it's just really wild. I mean, lots of partners had no idea it was happening. Apparently, like, according to some folks in the industry that told me some things, the people that had contracts with Mixer, like who, you know, Mixer signed officially, some of them knew, not all of them knew.
Oof.
So it's a real mess.
What a mess.
Yeah, we have a lot
Yeah.
of streamers at DreamHack that are Mixer partners. I can
That's
think
true.
of several. I mean, DJ and Robot Giggles are the two that immediately come to mind because I've worked with
Definitely.
both of them. And they had put so much work into their Mixer streams, because if you remember when Mixer came out, Twitch didn't have a lot of the features that it has now. And Mixer was very much about enabling more interaction, building more of a community. So less about you're the absolute best player ever who's going to sit here in silence while thousands of people spam the chat. It was so much more about actual interaction. And so they had extensions, and they had the low latency chat so that people talking were almost exactly the same time as the broadcast going out. And then Twitch came forward and they added a low latency mode, and they started adding all of the extensions and opened up third-party programming. And it's unfortunate because I do think Mixer had those ideas first. I think they did innovate in that space, but they didn't have the experience to make it work like Twitch did. And I feel so bad for those streamers who took the chance on it.
Yeah, I think the industry as a whole will be at a loss for the, you know, lack of competition now, because like you just said, that did push forward innovation on other platforms, and that's really important for this industry to, you know, grow and prosper. So that's a concern. Although, you know, hopefully Twitch has learned that you know, when you start doing these things that, you know, people are asking for and coming out with new cool stuff, that it actually helps build the platform even more. You can't just rest on your laurels if you want to stay on top. So we'll see, I guess, how it all turns out. But at the very least, I have seen so many of the folks that I knew as Mixer partners coming over to Twitch. I personally put out a tweet that got a lot of engagement, which was pretty surprising, but I put out a tweet about it because you can actually, if you're coming from one platform and going to another, Twitch specifically says, hey, you can show us what your numbers were here and then apply to the partner program without going through their achievement system. That's the path to partner achievement system, right? So a lot of folks have been actually finding success on that. In fact, one of my buddies, Covent, he has, I think, like over 800 subs 2 days in. So
Yeah,
there
that's
are some
awesome.
Mixer partners that are just absolutely slaying it with coming over from Mixer, which is really incredible to see the whole community just rally around everybody, and I'm loving it.
That's one of the parts about the departure of Mixer that really saddens me, other than that it was a driving force for pushing Twitch to be better in the competitive space of the streaming platform. But we get to see that there was amazing content being produced on Mixer. There was amazing partners over there that were producing things that no one is really doing on Twitch either. And when they are coming over to Twitch, they are good content creators. And I'm glad that they're being respected that way and that they're being received that way by the Twitch community, because that was kind of all up in the air as this all settled this past week. And no one was really sure where they were going to end up. And one of the topics of discussion that we had was like, where else do you go? Like, Mixer's gone. Do you go to Twitch? Facebook was option to go over there, but I know that there's been mixed feelings about Facebook's platform for a long time. YouTube is kind of what's next, but like, is there anything else out there?
Tencent is actually coming forward with a streaming platform.
Really?
Yeah, so that one is going to be very interesting to see how they handle that. And if you've ever done a deep dive into video game ownership, Tencent has partial or full ownership of so many more things than you would ever expect. They have their finger in every single pie, and that's really interesting because there's been a lot of talk again in the last few weeks around DMCAs, all this content going towards streaming, and now there's all these questions of licensing rights and, you know, the video game publisher, and is streaming actually even legal? And no one's ever really looked too hard at those questions before, because before it didn't really matter. But now, quite literally, all of the money is there because it's the only thing that can happen right now. And with Tencent owning and being involved in so many things, they might be able to pull a lot of exclusivity. They might be able to exercise a lot of influence in the space just because they already have it, but we just haven't necessarily seen them use it yet.
Yeah, and I mean, it's an interesting thought experiment, but at the end of the day, I think it would be an absolutely foolish move for any company that has, you know, or, you know, publisher or whatever, to say, oh, well, you can only stream this game on our platform or this platform or the other,
well,
because
it's
now
not
you're
even
cutting
that.
off tons of market reach.
But you can have exclusive drops on a platform, right?
Yeah,
they
definitely.
could.
Oh, sure.
So that's what I'm saying, is that I think platforms are great advertising tools. But if you are the publisher, developer, and the owner of a streaming platform, you can offer so many. Like, imagine if there was a League of Legends, those KDA skins, or the Louis Vuitton, you know, in-game everything. Imagine if there was a Tencent platform exclusive drop. Just think of the traffic you would drive through that alone.
No, it's a great point.
Yeah,
I think
that's
that
fair.
I feel like with the you know, the demise of Mixer, you know, it was both surprising and inevitable is kind of how I saw it, right? I mean, even when you look at the numbers, I think they had what, 3% market share of the whole streaming universe, which is just an absolute drop in the bucket when you talk about the juggernaut that is Twitch and the rapidly rising giant that is YouTube. I think we really shouldn't sleep on YouTube gaming's potential. And I know a lot of people also made the joke that, you know, the timing was very convenient given some of the allegations that were coming out about Mixer as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Can't have racism if your company doesn't exist. But
it's a false correlation. I addressed that on my Twitter as well, and people were like, oh, well, you know, since this came out, you know, they just shut things down. It's like these things have nothing to do with each other. They are mutually exclusive. If you don't know what mutually exclusive means, Google it, please. And you know, it's just that kind of this has been in the works for at least 12 months.
That kind of change does not happen quickly. It was very reminiscent of Heroes of the Storm, though. It's really what it felt like.
Yes.
You sign big Ninja Shroud deals. You start investing in a lot of things. You promise that there's a future purely through those contracts existing, and then turning around and say, nope, never mind.
Well, and this is just Microsoft to a T is what it feels like. As someone that's watched Microsoft dismantle some of my favorite games over the years, I mean, Fable, that's the one that I'll always go back to. They support Halo like crazy, but Fable's a game that I would love to see another one of, but that studio was shuttered a long time ago. And it's amazing that they've been able to preserve some and they turn them into absolute gold, and others like Mixer are just let to wither.
Didn't they just shut down all of their storefronts too?
Exactly. The Microsoft
Yeah.
stores.
It didn't make it in the pandemic.
Well, they've been around for a long time. They served a different purpose pre-Amazon. Is really where the Microsoft stores came from. It was with the peak of the Apple stores and writing into that, and that's where actually I got my start. Was running Halo events inside Microsoft stores across the US's malls. And to see those going away as the community hubs that they have become is really sad. That's the part that I don't want to see go, is that I'm curious to where all the equipment, because they've got Xboxes with games cases and just gear galore, that it was demo units for in-store events. And that would benefit communities in the fighting game community, or just anyone in general, greatly if they could end up with those in a local scene still, because that's a hole that's not going to be filled.
No, it's true. When I think about like all of this, I feel like there's two really big implications. I think one is when we're talking about the influencer economy, especially at a top level, I feel like Mixer's a pretty good example. And I might catch some heat for this, but screw it. I think Mixer's a pretty good example of how the influencer economy is absolutely broken. Like the reality is,
it's still the Wild West.
Yeah. But the reality is that on paper, if you get the biggest streamers on the planet to adopt and advertise your platform, if you pay them this ludicrous amount of money and you not only don't get ROI, but your platform dies a year and a half later completely. Like people talk a lot about how Ninja and Shroud are making out like bandits, and they are. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
Right? That is a sizable payday that I think everyone on this call and everyone listening would be very happy to have.
Yeah, I would take that. I would join a dead platform for that.
But at the same time, you can't help and think as a marketing person, if these people who are streamers were hired by a streaming company to promote a streaming platform and they couldn't get the job done doing that, what value do they necessarily bring to promoting your headsets? What value do they bring to promoting your mouse keyboards?
Well,
right?
There was a really fundamental logic flaw, though. I think with Ninja and Shroud, there was a fundamental flaw in their logic. Twitch does not necessarily, very often, does not actually have viewers with loyalty or towards entertainment. I'm sure there's someone who's in psychology that could really do a deep dive into this, but if someone has the most viewers, you click there because you think they're the most popular, and you sit and you watch it because you think they're the best or they're the most entertaining, because other people think they're the best or the most entertaining. So fundamentally, Ninja's been around for a long time. He built up that solid base, and he got Drake to sit in and play with him, and he broke Twitch, and you saw those numbers rise, and you saw who he was rise. But it didn't make Ninja fans. I fundamentally think that didn't make Ninja fans. That just engaged Fortnite fans that were already on Twitch. That brought people to Twitch that maybe hadn't been there before. I think a lot of that had to do, it brought people to the platform, they're on the platform, they click the top stream. There are streamers that if they moved, I think would bring a lot of people with them. There are streamers that clearly when they moved did not bring a lot of people with them. And that's the fundamental logic flaw. I truly believe that the top view streamers are not actually who you should target, because a lot of times their communities are so big, it's not actually a community. But I know streamers in that 500 to 2,000 mark that no, they wouldn't bring everybody, but they would bring so many more. Or I look at my own stream where I'm averaging something like 50 viewers, but I typically have anywhere from 120 to 200 subs, right? Like I have way more subs than I do viewers because people want to support me even if they can't be there. That flip side is not true when you get really big. And that's for marketing. Like we talk about micro influencers all the time. They're so much more effective than big ones. Big ones are about getting the name out there, but I don't actually think they convert very well.
Yeah, I think you still do need some big ones for sure.
Yeah.
To a degree. And I think that's probably the challenge that Facebook gaming inevitably will have, because when you're talking micro influencers, like Facebook has that on lock, okay? It may not be necessarily gaming content, but when we're talking about lifestyle and variety streaming, Facebook has that on lock. It's absurd how many people are watching. Now, is there a community behind all these people who are watching? Absolutely not. It's like, here's a live stream of me in New York walking right now to show you what protests look like, right? And there's people clicking it because of the content, but not because of the person itself. And you can't really build a platform that is about creators and following creators and things like that without good creators to do so, right? It's still going to feel very guerrilla, very grassroots. And that's fine if that's the area and avenue that Facebook wants to play in, right? If Facebook says, as long as we can get Joe Blow and all of his friends to watch Little Timmy streams with like 8 viewers, we're good, and we multiply that by, I don't know, like 30 million, then cool. I think that that's enough for them to find success, right? But if they're trying to build Facebook gaming into a platform that's genuinely going to compete with what's established with Twitch and whatnot, it's going to take a combination of really strong content creators that actually have giant names and a massive tectonic cultural shift in regards to the people who consume the content on that platform themselves. They don't have that yet. And so I think that inevitably I see them as a loser long term. I think realistically speaking, the only people that can possibly keep Twitch on their toes at all is YouTube. And YouTube themselves are not used to having any competition at all. As a platform one and of itself, right? The first time it's really having competition right now is now that it's jumping into the streaming space, right?
The weird thing about Facebook is that it's crazy popular outside of English speaking. So
yeah, that is
like
true.
So esports, anything casted in Spanish for esports is Facebook. Southeast Asia is Facebook. That's there's a woman, Pinda Panda, who, if you look at her Twitter, she's like 20,000 followers, whatever, and you think, oh, like she's a small creator. Then you check her Facebook and there's like, I don't know, 600,000-700,000 followers.
Wow.
Her YouTube's popping off. Like her Twitter and Instagram are tiny. Instagram one's a little weird that it's tiny, but her Facebook is massive because Facebook in Southeast Asia doesn't cost data on your phone. So people use it instead. So that's how they all message, and that's how they watch streams, and that's how they consume. And so Facebook's going to have a hard time with the English audience, but they're absolutely massive for non-English audiences already, which is super weird to think about, like that we're all sleeping hardcore on Facebook because it's just not how English users use it, but the rest of the world uses it a lot because Twitch servers are actually pretty bad outside of like really nice internet land. Twitch servers don't actually work that well in a lot of places in the world, which is where you see YouTube and Facebook work a lot better.
Interesting. That does make a lot of sense, especially with the YouTube live streams. I see more and more of those, over 1 million, than I see Twitch streams frequently. And that YouTube user base is just there globally. That, like you're saying, it's so localized for Twitch around North America and Europe, it feels like.
Yeah.
And they're kind of expanding slowly, but YouTube isn't Google. They've been doing this for a long time. Though YouTube's videos sometimes don't load for some reason, they still have that reach around the globe. Are we
sensing some frustration there?
Yes, I was trying to watch some Sea of Thieves videos the other night and it wouldn't load.
I am glad they're adopting some things from other platforms, which will remain nameless. Like for a long time, you couldn't mouse over a video and have a little autoplay preview. But thanks to these other platforms, which will continue to remain unnamed, we have that. That's where a lot of the innovation is coming from in the video world, you know?
This is what happens when we don't record for a month.
I'm being anonymous for little Timmy with his 8 Fortnite viewers right now, okay? We gotta make sure. No, but real quick before we dive off into another strange rabbit hole, I think that one thing that I see a lot, and rightfully so right now, is a lot of disarray from content creators who earned a living from Mixer. And I feel like for them, like their feelings are totally valid, 100%. That fear and insecurity of the fact that this thing that you took so long to build is now just being whisked away without any second thought. I can't even imagine even a worse time to do this for these folks either during a global pandemic. Like
Mhm.
that's bonkers to me. But what I will say is there's two very important lessons that everyone needs to know. The first is this incident shows how important it is, if you are a content creator, to diversify your content. Even if you are creating content on the best platform today, you need to diversify your content. Okay. If you're a Twitch streamer, make sure you're putting things up on YouTube. Make sure you have a strong following on Instagram. Make sure you're selling t-shirts, right? Like go ham, all right? Make a podcast, put that on Spotify, right? Like go absolutely ham when it comes to creating content. Make a great content funnel and diversify it as well. If you stick with one platform, you are totally screwed long-term because like I said, what happened to Mixer here, the stark reality is that that could happen to anyone on any platform at any time. Whether it's a result of the entire platform shutting down or otherwise remains to be seen. But definitely if you're like a Twitch streamer and you're making snide comments about how all these people put their eggs in the wrong basket and you're not diversifying your content, you're not doing much better yourself either. The second thing, and this is really more targeted towards Mixer creators, the reality is that if you were able to be on Mixer and make a living off of Mixer, a platform that has 1/30th the viewership of Twitch overall, I'm not worried about you at all. I think that you're going to come to Twitch and you're going to absolutely crush it. Because if you were able to make a gold mine out of a penny, essentially, when you're in a platform that is so established like Twitch, I think you're gonna do really, really well. Because again, the hardest part, and I think what's most attractive to people who are on Mixer, is the fact that it's good because it's a smaller community to get your initial footing. That's the thing that most Twitch viewers have to fight and claw for so long. I mean, countless content creators, they'll stream for years and never hit double-digit viewership, right? For the fact that a lot of these Mixer content creators already have that going in, that gives you a total leg up. So it's not like you're starting completely from scratch, right? If anything, you have such a far head up on so many other content creators. And in that sense, do not sell yourself short. I'm not going to lie to you and say that these first couple of months are going to be easy breezy, lemon squeezy or whatever. It's going to be hard as hell. It's going to suck. But I promise that if you could make a living off of Mixer, you're gonna make a gold mine off of Twitch, period.
Yeah, and plus, like what Blaine mentioned, Twitch has been working with a lot of them to help them get partnered immediately so that people can move over their subscription immediately and you don't have that gap in earnings and people don't go somewhere else. Like they can stay and hang out with you and use their emotes and don't go spend that money on someone else. So it's nice to see Twitch listening. And
it's so volatile and so fast, like that. You think about that month gap that could ultimately kill some of these streamers' potential of growing into the partners that they wanted to be, and on that line of full-time or not. It's a tough grind to get there. I mean, you know better than any of us that is such a fine balance of maintaining that community. And like you said, these bigger streamers didn't have that, but those smaller streamers do, and that's where they're going to find that, I think, that good home no matter where they end up, is that they've built these genuine communities around them that will follow them just about anywhere. We know that how that goes. There's a couple of crazies that are out there that follow us around to all of our shows. So.
Hey, we call them family.
Founders. I miss those crazies.
Family,
shout out to you, founders.
Yep.
I miss the crazies.
Yes, me too.
I miss the family people. I don't know if I want to go so far as to say I miss the crazies. I'm good without that level of fan.
I feel like the crazies have kind of gotten crazier lately, which 2020 in a nutshell, just spitting things all over the place. Can it get crazier? Next dice roll, please.
There was a great Jumanji joke I saw that it was like, no one can convince me that after Murder Hornets and Meth Gators, or like, no one can convince me that this is not Jumanji gone wrong.
Excuse me, Meth Gators?
Yes.
Meth
Welcome to
Gators?
Florida.
Yes.
Florida was putting out notices about not flushing your drugs because they were concerned that the gators would get real high, jacked up on those drugs,
and then get really aggressive.
And get very aggressive because of it.
Godzilla.
Another,
that was
yet
definitely
another
not
wild
on my
highline from
2020
Florida.
bingo card. Meth gators.
Yeah.
That was not on my list either.
Saw
Wait a
one the
minute.
other day that was like 2020 is like looking both ways to cross the street and then getting struck by an airplane as you step out.
I like that.
You know,
Right?
I saw
Just like
I saw
everything's
great,
unexpected.
Kyle, I saw a great meme that was shared by Saving the Bees, and it was a guy looking at the clock, and it said, 11:59:59 2020, and he had a giant smile, and then the image below was him frowning. It said 11:59:60, like he just stayed
Yep.
on 2020.
I've really enjoyed
stuck.
the past 6 months have been a great decade.
Oh yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
No.
It aged a decade for sure.
Yeah, just
Feels like it.
I mean, and honestly, there's been several moments where, hey, that last week was a really nice year.
Very much so.
You just
True.
feel
Yeah.
like it took forever to get through.
I don't
These-
remember
These
which-
last couple in particular.
Yes, yep, we've had, I would say, several years lived
Yeah.
in the past month. Easily.
At least. This is the darker side of what we're realizing this community that we are part of entails. I feel like right now, and it's been really weighing heavy. I don't know how you guys have generally felt overall, but like it's just not felt good the past couple weeks.
It's felt bad. I mean, I'm getting emotional a little bit right now, Kyle, because I'm looking in the corner of your screen at how many badges you have. And to think that that number for this year is maybe 1 for Anaheim,
Yep.
Mhm.
and that's it.
Yep, that's it.
Sucks.
I was talking to somebody, I don't remember who, yesterday was talking about missing, going to events, and I counted on my how many flights and events I would have been to, and I'm like, shoot, I would have been to like 6 other events by now.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah. I haven't even been to the airport once.
It's weird. It's so weird to sit for so long. But on the flip side, people clearly have a lot of extra time to think about things and be
Yeah.
active about them,
Yeah.
which has definitely led to some interesting changes in how we approach the gaming community, for sure.
I feel like we're growing up another level here in the gaming space. This seems to happen in
Yep.
just about every major industry as it evolves, is that there's a system that's built on the original structure that just seems to fade away as we grow up and evolve, and it's those rough edges start to shake off and are removed by the different functions that the community can offer at that point. And right now we're seeing a public outcry on a level that we've never seen before. That's so
It is quite unprecedented.
Yeah. So we're being kind of veiled about it. So I'm just straight up say it. Me Too hit gaming.
Yep.
I'll be the one to take that bullet. Definitely hit gaming. I think it hit wrestling as well, and I feel like I've seen several comics posting about it, but I'm not sure. And obviously, it's a lot of things I've always really been aware of. And the moment people started coming forward with their stories, I did the same and just told a huge laundry list of like small interactions. But the second thing that I did was I said, well, you know what? Let's talk about the good things that people are doing. Let's talk about how we've dealt with this in the past and how you can take like what we've learned and move it forward. And the very first thing I thought of was that I run cosplay for DreamHack, right? Everyone knows that cosplayers get more harassment or more attention. It's not even necessarily bad. There's oftentimes it's not bad attention. It's not someone with bad thoughts or goals or anything, but not always the most aware of someone being uncomfortable, or where do you put your hand when you go to take the picture. And there's so many little things like that. That's actually one of the first things I do when I work with my volunteers on my cosplay team is I give them 5 or 6 different phrases. And I say, hey, if a cosplayer has been talking to one person for too long, go use one of these phrases to give them a moment that pulls them aside, and then make sure that they're comfortable and they're okay, because they want to be nice. They don't want to escalate things. It's really awkward to do that. So your job is to be that person for them, and here are the tools to do it. And I've had so many cosplayers come up and tell me how safe they feel at our events because of this. And I look at that and I think of all the stories that I told when I started talking about this, and I can sit there and I can be like, I'm glad that at least I helped stop some of those stories from happening. And it's been really hard for all of us. It's been depressing and awful and eye-opening for a lot of people. Not so eye-opening for others, but it's been really nice to see people understand, realize, and then start talking about, hey, how do we be better? How do we be better? And that's been super encouraging. Like, it's been exhausting and sad, but it's been so encouraging and freeing. And so that's what I want to like communicate to everybody out there who's been rocked by this. So many women that I've spoken to, and I've noticed a lot of men come out about their abuse as well, because that's even more stigmatized and hard to talk about. It's so freeing for them, for this to finally be destigmatized and for people to be listening. So this might look really awkward or uncomfortable or bad for people, but honestly, like, this is, like Kyle said, this is the maturing that we needed. And for so many people, it's like this sigh of relief that you could tell your story, and by telling your story, you're actually protecting someone else.
Yeah, and I think like you mentioned, it is awkward and it's uncomfortable, and for some people it is very bad. But at the end of the day, the amount of rallying around those that have come forward on Twitter and all the other platforms, and it's even been talked about in news outlets like the New York Times,
or Felicia
right?
Day was tweeting about it.
Right. So it's pretty huge and very encouraging. We're still in this tunnel of everything that's going on, but the light is there and we're not far away from it. And so the lessons that have been learned, and doing what we can to especially like as DreamHack, as event organizers, like with the measures that you were outlining, Renessa, what can we do to make sure these places are safe? And like whenever I'm at any of the after parties or mixers or whatever, I'm always on a radar, just watching. And I do not have enough fingers and toes to count the amount of times that I have either blocked or diffused a situation, or I've escorted so many people back to their hotel rooms to make sure that they end up not being preyed upon by people. It's crazy. But I'm so glad that we can talk about this stuff and have everybody really pay attention now.
Yeah. That freedom that you're talking about, Renessa, I'm very curious to see what this next era of creativity that's coming out of this newfound freedom, and having this weight lifted off of you as a creator has got to just feel amazing. And you can fly again, essentially.
Yeah.
And with finding new homes, and like we talked about with transitioning from Mixer and everything, there's a lot of just this renaissance era that we're moving into of streaming right now. And this is one of those kicking off points that really needs to happen in order for this renaissance to really flourish, because everyone needs to feel welcome in this space. And right now we're seeing that a lot of people may not have said anything, but didn't feel welcome in our community anymore, or felt uncomfortable in our community, which just kills me inside to hear that, because I cherish this so much that I don't want to have anyone feel like they can't be a part of what we are, because that is what gaming is to me.
I feel like I'm big shocker. I feel like I always have something to say about everything. But this is one of those definitely one of those moments where I feel like it's really important, especially for folks like me, to just take a step back and listen to a lot of the stories and a lot of the conversations that are happening around this in particular. I am really grateful to have you on our podcast, not because you help make a better podcast as a whole for us, but also because you provide very important insights that I, as just a dude, just don't have, because it's not an experience that I really understand intimately at all.
Well, and honestly, I know it's a DreamHack podcast and like you can't trust what I'm saying or whatever, but like that's one of the reasons I landed at DreamHack, right? Is I did my first event because it was Dota, and I'm obsessed with Dota, as we know. But DreamHack was the first gaming event that had women at it. It was the first company that I saw women everywhere. It was, Kyle and I spent a lot of time talking, and he actually understood what I was talking about. And he didn't like give me these glazed over eyes when I would mention anything like that, or Aaron or CJ or all these people that were, you know, white dudes. Actually, most of them like tall, large white dudes.
And then
so
there's
like
Kyle.
he's tall. He is tall.
Pocket sized.
But it
He
was
moved away from the mic to cry.
it felt safe for me. It felt like I could always go to a DreamHack and feel safe and comfortable. I could actually talk to people and people would actually listen to me. And that was what was crazy. And like, it's still a gaming space. It's still not 50-50 men and women, but there's so many more, even in our attendees, women and kids, and then in the office and in our contractors and people we work with, it's just so much more seats at the table. That's what I keep saying through all this. A lot of people have asked me, how do we move forward? And I said, give minorities more seats at the table. And that is everything. And that was why it just feels easier to exist at DreamHack than it has anywhere else in the gaming space for me. And that's always been really nice. That was just, I honestly wouldn't have dove in so hard if I didn't feel that way.
We're a special bunch of crazies, that's for sure.
And now we're back on the crazies. Hey, founders, what up?
The good crazy, you know. This
The
kind
good
of crazy means family. Family means no one gets left behind. I'm pretty sure that was a Lilo and Stitch quote, right?
Oh, Hannah.
I know.
Oh, goodness. Wow.
Was that your Stitch?
Yeah. Hey, I'm trying, all right?
That was a good effort. I would give that a solid 7.
I can do the
I thought
punch
you had, like,
buggy
a voice
line
effect
a
on.
lot better. No, I'll just switch into it whatever I want to. It's a whole thing. Yeah.
That's
Wow.
impressive. Wow.
Wow.
Before we get too distracted with this, I do want to close out this thought with, if you see any of us at a DreamHack show and you feel uncomfortable there, please come talk to us. We do not want you to feel uncomfortable at our festivals, at our shows, or any of the times that a DreamHack event is happening. And if you do feel uncomfortable for some reason, come talk to us. And we would be happy to listen and address whatever we can. And I know Blaine has that belief so deeply ingrained in his soul that it never turns off. So if you see Blaine anywhere and you feel uncomfortable, you can go talk to Blaine for sure, and he will help
Pretty
you
easy
out.
to spot.
Yeah, and that's
and the same
definitely
goes for
something.
any. It's not just staff, right? Same goes for, you know, security officers at our event. You know, we're very adamant about making sure we have plenty of security officers, including uniformed police officers. But also our volunteers. You know, our crew. If you see anybody, I wish I was wearing one of the crew shirts right now, but it usually says crew on the front or the back or whatever.
Huge letters, bright
Big
colors,
letters,
very
you know.
easy to see them.
Yeah, lean on the volunteers. You know, and if they can't help directly, they'll find somebody who can. You know, we have a zero tolerance policy at DreamHack for any sort of harassment. You know, verbal, physical, sexual, anything. You know, it is directly in our code of conduct policy as an attendee that everybody agrees to when they buy a ticket and attend our show. So, you know, that being said, you know, thanks for being a part of the community. Everybody who's out there listening. You know, we care about these things because we care about you and your voices. So,
well, that's what I keep
Absolutely.
saying is that we're all here because we love video games. And someone made a really good point a long time ago that I was talking to, and it was about Dota, but I think it extrapolates to how we all ended up here too. Especially before gaming was so prevalent. So for those of us in our late 20s or, you know, a little older on the ancient side of the spectrum for the rest of the people in the podcast, Kyle.
So rude. The day of reckoning is coming for you, you sweet summer child.
I've got time. A lot of us turned to video games as our escape, as our method of pure entertainment. It is video games for us when we were young and innocent is a little different than what they are now. They weren't quite as accessible. They weren't quite as ubiquitous. And honestly, if you were a big gamer, you were a little ostracized for that. So the gaming community is where you fit in. We are all here because we didn't fit in with anybody else, and we want to be around other gamers, and we want to hang out with other gamers. And so when you come to one of our shows or like any gaming event, everybody is there because they desperately just want that community and want to be a part of it. So of course we are fiercely protective of that at all points in time, and are just like, yes, of course we will help you, and yes, of course we are there, and yes, of course that's in our code of conduct. Because seriously, we're just nerds.
Yeah, we are just a bunch of nerds. And I think this rounds us out all the way to the end of our 5th podcast episode. So thank you all for tuning in and watching. This is, this is really fun. I really enjoy doing this, and I hope you guys enjoy the content that we're bringing you at the end of the day. And if you have feedback, please, wherever you are, find us on Twitter. DreamHack. That's usually a good place to post some things, but you can find all of us as well on those social media platforms. We won't go through the full list, but let us know what you think. We want some feedback about this. There's enough content out there now that we've kind of had a few of these, and we want to know what you guys want to hear more of and less of. And if you just think that JV talks too much and tells slanderous things about how he's taller than me, then tell him that he's wrong, because he is not taller than me by about a foot.
Until we can do a live episode of the DreamHack download, the viewers will never know because they're just listeners.
I can see JV right now Googling up male heels. I can see
male heels.
Yes,
that's a thing.
Yes, they believe you call them lifts. Lifts.
Yes,
Lifts.
that is the correct gender term.
Live on stage at
Kyle
DreamHack.
immediately knew what they were called, and I did not know. Further proves my point that Kyle is indeed shorter than me.
And on that note, thank you all for watching another episode of the DreamHack Download. Everything gaming under one podcast. Until next time, see you then.